Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to script a character that you have made to give it the instructions to make it controllable by the keyboard or mouse or however you want to make your character move around. So in a previous video I showed you how to attach a script from the Gamefroot Classic pack, which has all of the instructions written into the script so you don't have to make anything yourself. But today I'm going to show you how to make it yourself if you would like. So I'm going to make a blank game, and I'm going to put in some terrain, and I'm going to put in the new character that I've made. So I'll just draw down some terrain, really messy, and I'm going to add in the animated character that I made. So I've just found the pack and ticked it. It needs to be ticked so that it'll show up in the sidebar here in game objects. So if I scroll down to the bottom, there it is. Now if I place it, if I place it on a terrain layer, it'll get all shrunk. So I can delete that. I want to place it on a regular layer, so I put it down. If I play my game, I won't be able to control the player, I won't be able to move around because it has no instructions on it yet. So we'll just wait for that to load up. So there's my character, just kind of sitting there doing nothing. Can't move it around with the keyboard. So now we will give it a script to tell it what to do. Before we create a script, we want to have some idea of what we want it to achieve. So I've thought about how I want to move my character around in my game. I want to use the left and right keys to make her move left and right. I want to use the up key to make her jump. And I want to use the, I might use the down key to make her duck. We might just stick with left, right, and jump for the moment. So, to create a script, we just want to right click on the game object and choose Add Script. Now this is the script editor, and it has a bunch of blocks that all represent different instructions. The first blocks that we're going to need are the key pressing event blocks. So I want to go to events and I want to go when the player presses a key. So I'll drag that out into the workspace. Like I said, I want to use left, right, and up. So I will duplicate this 3 times. I'll right click on the block, go duplicate, and then duplicate again. Now we don't want to be pressing backspace, we want to be pressing left arrow and right arrow. So I'm going to change that one to left arrow and change that one to right arrow and this one to up arrow. Now when I press the left arrow, what do I want the character to do? I want her to change her speed or her velocity. So physics has blocks for velocity. If I click on physics and grab the set velocity X block here, X velocity is acrossways, Y velocity is up and down. So I'll grab that block, put that there. Now, a velocity of 0 is not going to move. A velocity of negative something will make a game object move to the left. So I'm going to set this to negative 200. And the opposite for the right. So if I duplicate this block and change that to positive 200, now this character should move around when I press these keys. Really basic. I'll just save that now. I'll give this a name, character controls. We will close that. And now you can see it's got the little icon on there. That means the script has been added. Now I'm going to preview the game. And there we go. Really basic. Left makes her go left, right makes her go right. As you can see, she's not animating at all. That'll be one of the things we add in next. But she's also kind of floating a little bit, and she doesn't fall down onto the next level of on that ledge there. So we want to add gravity, and we also want to add that jump in. I didn't do anything for the upkeep. So we will go back into that script. We'll just right click on her and go edit script. Now gravity, we want gravity to be applied right at the very beginning. So we want to go to events, and we want to say when created. That means when the game object gets created, and that happens just before the game actually starts. So we've got that event block that's going to happen at the very beginning. We want to get gravity, that's under physics. So we want to set gravity, so drag that one out there. But we also want to tell this game object, this character, to be affected by gravity. So we need to go to physics again, and this block is near the bottom. Set reacts to gravity to true. We need to drag that in there because it's off by default. So now we'll change that X to Y, because remember Y is up and down. You don't want to have sideways gravity, that'd be quite weird. Set gravity Y to a positive number because that's down. A negative Y number means heading upwards. So we'll set that to, I think 500 is a pretty good number. We'll try that. Oh, also I wanted to add the jump, that's right. So I'll just go back into it and duplicate one of these X velocity blocks for the up arrow event and change that to Y. So velocity Y will be 200 would make her go down. I want to make her go up when you press the up key. So I need to put a little minus sign in there to make it a negative 200. And we'll save that and close it and play the game and see what has changed. Okay, there we go. Well, so we've got a very basic movement system going on here now. And there we go. Okay, so we want to add in some animations. It does look a little weird with her just sliding around like that. We want to double check what we've named our animations. In a previous video I talked a bit about that, but if you want to see what your animation names are, you want to right click on the game object and go edit animation. Bear in mind you can do all this character control stuff on a game object that doesn't have animations, say just like a static image. It won't look as cool, but it'll still work fine. This is specifically if you have done sequences for the animation. So here you can see the sequence names are idle, walking, jump up, jump down, dying, ducking, and prone. So when I go back into the script editor and I tell it to play these animations, I need to refer to them exactly as they're written here. So I can just close that now. So if I go back to the script and I think about how I want these animations to play, we've kind of got to think a bit logically here. We want to have a constantly loop going, which keeps updating everything every frame. So I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to go to constantly. I'm going to grab that out. We also want to we want to be checking certain conditions to play these animations. So if I'm standing still, we can check my velocity. If my X velocity is 0 and my Y velocity is 0, then I'm idle, so we should play the idle frame, the idle animation. if my y velocity is negative, which means I'm traveling upwards, we should play the jump up animation. If my y velocity is positive, which means I'm falling down, we should play the jump down animation. So by thinking about the different states our character can be in, we can correctly play the animations. And you might get it wrong a few times. That's okay. It'll become pretty obvious what you need to tweak as you go along. So first I will get the idle and walking animations in. So I want to go to animation, and I want to go to play animation name. I know that I've got one called idle and one called walking. Now, to do this checking, conditional checking, we want to go to control. We want to grab this if block. So we want to check if a certain condition is true or not. We want to first check if it's idle. So if its x and y velocity both equal 0. So to check if a number equals something, we want to go to operators and we want to grab this block here. Something equals something. We want to check if the x velocity equals 0. And we also want to check if the y velocity equals 0. To check for 2 or more conditions at once, you want to use this block from operators called AND. So we can grab this AND block and we can put that equals block inside there. We want to check, so like I said, we want to check our x velocity, which is under physics. X velocity right here, velocity x. If velocity x equals, we need a number block which we can get from operators under numeric. So if velocity x equals 0, and I'll just duplicate that part. If velocity y equals 0, and if it's not already playing the animation frame, that's important as well. I'll show you why in a sec. So we want to grab another AND. Just chuck that one in there. So velocity x equals 0, velocity y equals 0, and animation name isn't idle. So we want to get this equals thing again. And from animation, we want to go current animation. Put that one in there. And now the animation names are text, not numbers. So I want to check if the current animation doesn't equal text. So I want to click on that equals and choose the equals sign with a cross or the strike through. That means doesn't equal. So if current animation doesn't equal, we want to grab a block of text, which is under operators, under text, about halfway down. Grab that and put that in there and type idle. If the animation is already idling, we don't want it to tell it to keep playing idle. It will just play idle by itself. So say if we were telling it to do the walking animation and we keep telling it to play that walking animation, it'll keep going to the very first frame and it won't ever get to play through the cycle. So that's why we need to add that bit on the end there to make sure that it's not already playing the sequence. Okay, so we've got idling in. We'll add walking in and then we'll check it and we'll add some more stuff. Now for walking, we want to say if y velocity equals 0. If the y velocity is greater than 0, that means she's falling, and so she shouldn't be walking in the air, so she'll play the falling animation. If the y velocity is less than 0, that means she's jumping, and she also shouldn't play the walking animation. So we can kind of deduce when each sequence should happen. So I'll duplicate that if block there, and I'll change some of these conditions here for the walking animation. So Y velocity needs to equal 0 for her to be able to be walking, and X velocity shouldn't be 0. So we'll change that to velocity X, and we'll change that to a not 0. So not equals. Because if velocity X equals 0, we want to play the idle frame. And if the walking frame, if the walking animation isn't being played, then we want to play the walking animation. So, alright. That'll deal with walking and idling. We'll save that. And we'll see if it worked. Let's wait for this to load up. Alright, so the walking frame plays if I am moving left or right, but as soon as I bump into something, she's forced to stop, and that makes her velocity X go down to 0, which then makes the idle frame play. So, there we go. And notice while she's in the, okay, while she's in the air and her velocity X is 0, she still plays the idle frame, but she can walk around in the air. So we'll change that now. We'll add the jump up and jump down frames, which, if you remember, they look something like this. Just checking the animation again, just make sure I get the right names. So jump up, she looks like this, so she's going jumping up, and jump down, she's falling down. So cool, jump up and jump down. Notice how they got capital letters. You need to use those or else it won't work. So we are constantly checking the her velocity and her animation, and then based on that we're playing the animations. So we want to now do the jump up and jump down. So I'll just duplicate this a couple of times for jump up and jump down, and I'm going to tweak these conditions here. So that will be for jump up, and that will be for jump down. Okay, so she should be playing the jump up animation if her velocity is negative y. So so that would mean if it's smaller than 0. So if y velocity is smaller than 0, and actually I don't think we even need that one there, so we can get rid of one of these ands. We just need to check if, let's drag that into the trash can there. If y velocity is smaller than 0, and if she's not already playing the jump up animation, then play the jump up animation. And subsequently, if velocity y is greater than 0, so if she has walked off a ledge and starts falling, her y velocity will increase from 0 to something. So if y velocity is greater than 0, and like before we don't need that other block there. So if y velocity is greater than 0 and the current animation isn't jump down, oop, don't need that one there, then play jump down. I think that's it. Let's check it out. Also, one other thing to be aware of, I've set it so that when I press left or right, the velocity will change, but it doesn't reset itself back to 0. So you may want to, I might as well just add this in now. You may want to have it so that when you release the key, she stops moving. So she'll be moving while you're pressing it, and then when you release it, she'll stop moving. So I'll just duplicate these events here and change the presses in each of them to releases. I don't need to do it for up because gravity takes care of that. So when I press, when I release the left arrow, I want to set my X velocity back to 0, and when I release the right arrow, we want to set the X velocity also back to 0. I think that's it. We'll test it out, and there may be one thing extra that we need to add in, and I think that will be flipping. Alright, so when I release, she stops moving, but the most important thing is, does she play the right animations? Does she play? So she plays the up animation, but oh no, she's playing the down animation. So when she's jumping up, she looks like she's falling down, and when she's falling, she actually doesn't play the falling one. So I'll just double check what I've done here. So if Y velocity is smaller than 0 and current animation isn't jump up, play jump up. If Y, okay, here we go. I need to change that to a larger than, greater than. So if her Y velocity is greater than 0, which means she's falling, then play jump down. Okay, because I duplicated them, I forgot to change that. It always pays to double check. There we go. Jumping up, jumping down, up, 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 down. Cool. And she doesn't jump very far when I press up. So I might want to go and change the Y velocity when I press up to like -600. I think that'll work. Now you will have noticed when she's moving left and right, she is always facing the same way. So she does a bit of moonwalking sometimes. So what we want to do is change it so that whenever she is moving to the left, she flips on the x-axis. So we want to grab a block from transform called scale x, set scale x. Now this is 1 being 1-to-1 ratio, and if you want to flip her horizontally, you want to set it to -1. So when she is moving left, she needs to be flipped. So we can say when the player presses left arrow, set scale x of myself to -1, and when they press the right arrow, we want to go and reset that scale back to 1. So that's what that should look like. So we'll save that now. And I think that is the final thing that we needed to add. And of course you can check a bunch of different conditions in your game. Oh, I may have made the jumping too high. Notice how, so she does flip now, but she flips she moves an awful lot when she flips. That's because there is some transparent space on her side. So it's flipping her across over here, and there's all this transparent space in between, and it doesn't look perfect. What we can do there is change the anchor point. Oh, we might talk about that another time. This is just how to get basic character controls working. If you have any questions, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, facebook.com/Gamefroot, and just @Gamefroot at Twitter. You can email me as well at dave@gamefroot.com, or just leave a comment below. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks.